There's only a handful of things that we do every single day without missing a beat besides eating and sleeping. One of the most important ones, I believe, is communication. Name the last time you went an entire day without using any words. Exactly. You can't, because it's something we use daily. Also ask yourself this: when was the last time you sat down and actively practiced how you spoke? Most people go the rest of their lives without spending another day focusing on the thing they use most, which is communication. Because they think, I already know that, I use it every single day, why should I practice it? It's the people who don't practice it get trampled on every single day. They get wrecked in negotiations, musicians get screwed over by record labels, people get screwed over by their bosses, they get manipulated, and they get misunderstood because they can't get their idea across to the other person clear enough. I want to share with you a few secrets about communication and how to do it more effectively. Look, these skills will help you become a better parent. They will help you lead a team better. You can get more attention on social media. You can get more attention in person socially. There's many other areas where this skill set affects your life. My name is Chris. I've grown my own online education businesses to over 7 figures. I want to help you develop the skill set so that you can do the same thing. The first thing I'll give you is just one important word to think about every single day, and that word is brevity. The definition of brevity is concise and exact words used in writing or speech. How many times have you asked somebody a simple question and they ramble on in circles just to make one single point? And how often do you check out and stop listening halfway? For example, if somebody asks you, what do you do for work? And they go, it's complicated to understand. First of all, when I was 4, I started off doing this. And a year later, I started doing this. But halfway through, I got confused. And then they just keep rambling and speaking in circles and never get to the point. But when they do get to the point, you've already mentally checked out. What happens, they try to make a point. While making that point, they could just pick these specific words that would get the point across. And then they throw in a lot of filler words in between the mix. And now you're having trouble dissecting exactly what they're saying because there's something important there, but there's also a lot of words that are unnecessary. Brevity is the complete opposite of that. You're using only the words that are necessary to make your point and nothing more. It's really hard for people to understand and keep up with what you're saying if you're saying important words, but you're mixing them with words that are just this uncontrolled word vomit noise that's coming out of your face hole. The interesting thing, the less words that you say, the more power it has and the more weight that it holds. I'll give you an example. There's 2 ways to ask this question. If I was asking you, why is your job important to you? You could say, I know this kind of sounds like a dumb question, but I know that if you didn't do this, you couldn't support your family and all that stuff. But I'm just I just want to know why your job is so important to you, and what happens if you don't have your job anymore, or let's just say somebody else took your job, or what do you think you would be? What do you think would happen? Or you can say, why exactly is your job so important to you? Believe it or not, most people say the first one subconsciously without even realizing they're doing it. If you're speaking to somebody and you use a lot of words, the person on the receiving end is going to feel like, well, I don't need to say many words because they're just going to fill up the space anyway. If that's the case and you're asking a question, you're not going to get good answers in return. They're going to give you vague answers just to skim by and then expect you to fill in the blanks. If you reverse it, keep it brief, then they feel like they have to keep opening up and saying more to fill in the awkward space. The person who is more comfortable with the awkward silence will get the answers that they want. That is why it is so much more powerful to be brief, concise, and only use the words that you need to use to get the point across, and no fillers. Number 2 is use simple terms. Many make the mistake and believe that if they use big words that people don't hear on a day-to-day basis, it makes them sound smarter. And that might be true from a bookworm standpoint. You could know more words. You could be smarter by knowing more definitions of more complicated words that are less used. But somebody with communication intelligence understands that most people don't know those bigger words. So they must take big ideas and boil them down to simple terms so that the person on the receiving end does understand the message. When you use big words and you're trying to get a message across, the person listening has to do 2 different things now. They first have to define in their heads what those big words mean. Once they feel like they've defined it, they now have to go back and try to make sense of it in the context that you used, and then try to understand the message you said. The human brain can only do so much at one time. Giving them that extra layer of complexity and that step is going to make it harder for you to get your message across. Forcing them to try to understand the meaning of a word takes away from their ability to understand the overall message. Smart people know big words. Smart communicators use simple terms to help other people understand. Third thing is structuring the way that you ask questions and you answer questions. Let me know if you've ever heard this. You ask someone a simple question. Before I answer that, I must give you the context of my entire life story, and then I'll answer your question. So if you ask them, like, what are you having trouble with as far as playing guitar? And they go, well, I started playing guitar when I was 4 years old, and when I picked it up, I just fell in love with it because my dad showed me how to do it. How many times have you heard people do that? How many times do you check out before they even get to the point? It's the same thing with questions. Before I ask this question, I need to give you this background. That's not the way you should do it. You shouldn't try to give this complex story and then put your question into it somewhere in the mix. That's how people get confused. And I promise, if you ask the smartest person in the world and you confuse them by the way that you structure your question, you're not going to get the best answer. So you're only hurting your ability to learn better. If you sat down next to Warren Buffett and weren't direct with the question, beating around the bush is not going to help you. And I promise you, people who value their time more than money aren't going to sit and give you the time of day to have you blabber. So the quicker you can get your point across, the better, and this is the structure you should use when asking questions and answering them. First thing, go direct to the question that you're asking, and then give a few context points to make sense of the question. Wrap it up by asking the question one more time. Here's an example. How do I fix the quality of leads that I'm getting in my advertisement? The reason I bring that up is because everyone I speak to doesn't seem to be playing music. They seem to all be underage, and none of them are doing it at a professional level. So that's why I wanted to ask you, how can I improve my lead quality? So I asked the question, I just gave a few bullet points to make sense of the question and give them enough context so that they can answer it correctly, and then I wrap it up by saying, this is the question again. If you ask it like that, people are going to be able to understand you better. My clients will sometimes give me paragraphs of text, and I don't mean to do this, but in my head, I just have this little freak out moment as soon as I see all these words, and I'm like, I'm gonna put this off and read it later when I have the mental energy to really go in and just like dissect exactly what this is. But if they would have just said, this is my question, boom, 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 that's why, I would answer it right away, because it doesn't make my brain have this freak out moment. It's the same thing when you're answering questions. If somebody asked me, how do I fix my lead quality in my advertisement so that I can get better students? I would say this is the best way to make sure you get quality leads. 1, talk about problems that only advanced people are having. 2, make sure that you're calling specifically out that person, what they label themselves as. 3, make sure that you're targeting the correct things that they're interested in. If you do those 3 things, you're gonna fix your lead quality dramatically. I did it in the same structure. This is how you fix it, and this is the result that you'll get. Reason being is this, this, and this. That is why it works so well. Next time you ask somebody questions, next time you answer questions, try that structure. I promise you, you're gonna get better answers for your questions. You're gonna get better reactions for your answers. Having a simple structure always helps people understand better. When people are speaking to you, they're not sitting there trying to analytically analyze each and every single word that you're saying and trying to dissect what it all means. Our brains are sometimes passive and not in active detective mode. So you have to cater to that side of the brain when you're speaking to people. Again, this is going to help you in your personal life, in your business, building a team, everything, marketing, all of it. It's going to change dramatically if you just focus on communication. Don't forget to subscribe if this was helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next one.